Next week, we'll be discussing Conan the Barbarian from 1982. Tom, how was your watch?
This is my first watch of the movie. I don't think I've ever seen this before. I've
Shocking.
seen scenes of it, I'm sure, because I remember James Earl Jones turning into a snake. And I do remember Schwarzenegger's Conan, being confused by when he picks up the sword of Crom and that type of thing. There's a lot of Schwarzenegger being confused. But I don't think I've ever seen it before. And I enjoyed the hell out of it for about 20 or 25 minutes. And I got a little tired of it after a while. I the crucifixion
Oh,
scene.
there's a lot of spoilers here, Tom. Let's
Oh, there's gonna be spoilers.
You
no,
should
no,
tell
not
them the
this,
whole
not
movie
yeah,
before
no.
the episode.
Next week there'll be spoilers, but
Next week there'll be spoilers. Okay, there's something that doesn't really hold up or make a lot of sense to me. But there is this sort of incredible machismo to the movie that I liked a lot, and a very unapologetic machismo as well. The sort of idea of you embrace steel, and steel is that which doesn't lie, is very engaging and very interesting and very fun, and also very different. I don't see a lot of movies that have this sort of survivalist attitude over a you know much more kind of familiar moral construct. So I had some fun watching it, though I got exhausted pretty quickly. It is more than 2 hours long, which is, it feels like a 90-minute movie that's been stretched. James, how was your first watch?
I really enjoyed it. Now I've seen it before, but it's been such a long time. There's a lot of it I didn't remember, but I happen to really like the sword and sorcery genre. Um, really, in every way it manifests, from movies to literature to heavy metal music. Even the way that incorporates it. For me, it was always a guilty pleasure. And what I like about the genre and about Conan particularly was that kind of unflinching, straight faced look at masculinity. Like you said, Tom, it really is a straight down the line, narrow shot with very little subtlety on the conception of being a man. I mean, even the tagline of the movie: thief, warrior, gladiator, king. That kind of unabashed celebration of old school masculinity is certainly a guilty pleasure, and certainly in rarer supply in movies nowadays. At least as directly. How about you, KJ?
so I had seen Conan a few years ago, and I remember liking it. I do remember liking it. I watched it for the show this time. And audience, the opening scene is actually really good. It opens up with this battle in this village that I thought was really well constructed, really fun. But after that, like Tom is saying, the movie gets exhausting, and like James is saying, I don't remember it even now that we're recording and about to talk about it, and I didn't remember it from my first watch. I advise watching this in small segments because I think there's a bunch of short stories that are vaguely stitched together, and it might be better to just do a few of those at a time. But if you do like the opening scene, I recommend the movie Krull. It's another 80s fantasy movie that I thought was good all the way through, so maybe go check out Krull. Also, I tried playing the NES game a little bit. I figured 80s NES, and it's awful. It's one of the worst NES games I've ever played. I don't recommend doing that, audience. Stick to the first scene of the movie, go watch Krull, then come listen to our episode. How about you, Nick?
The year was early 1990 something, and Nick found two giant garbage bags
Oh,
of
no.
VHS tapes.
Not the
Sorry,
garbage
That's
bags
two
again.
giant garbage bags of VHS tapes on the way to sixth grade. This occasion has changed my whole life. One of the many films that were taken from HBO and put on these VHSs was none other than Conan the Barbarian. And I have watched this film many times. In fact, this was a pivotal moment in my young adulthood, I guess, becoming a man, I realized that there are movies that can show people maybe not with all their clothes on. This was a pivotal moment in understanding the artistic expression of a director on the physical film. I love this film, not because of those reasons, but it just is something I remember in great depth. So, yeah, all kidding aside, in that series of films within those two bags, I guess they were technically paper bags, maybe not the black garbage bags you're thinking of there, were many films that included Schwarzenegger, including another favorite of mine that we did on the show called The Running Man, but Conan the Barbarian was in there too. And the plot is wacky, and I still love the film. It is just out there. It is just quintessential 80s fantasy, like what the world thought of fantasy in the 80s.